Tsavo River Line, early morning. A low mist hangs over the banks, cool and unmoving. Near the bend, where the reeds push thick into the curve of the water, a stray dog stands stiff-legged, barking. The sound is sharp, but not frantic. Each bark is measured, spaced apart by silence, as if meant for someone who hasn't come. Her ribs show, thin beneath coarse fur, and her paws are caked in dry mud. She does not move from her place. She barks, waits, then barks again. Two men from the nearby village stop on the path and watch her. One of them clicks his tongue, trying to draw her away. She turns her head but doesn't approach. Instead, she lowers her body and growls low, not at them, but toward the earth. Then she barks again, same direction, same rhythm. Something is wrong. Dogs don't fixate like this for no reason. By mid-morning, a message reaches the ranger post, and a unit from the Eastern Field Station sets out. It's not common to deploy for a single stray, but when the report mentions persistent barking and a refusal to leave the riverbank for 2 nights straight, protocol shifts. Sometimes it means injury. Sometimes it means a body. Ranger Malik arrives first. He's been stationed in Tsavo for 9 years. He crouches 10 meters away, watching the dog through the light cover of acacia. She doesn't look back. She paces twice in a tight circle, then returns to the same spot and resumes barking. One paw lifts now and then, shaking slightly. Her tail is low, not tucked. She's alert, not afraid. Malik signals the rest of the team to hold. He steps forward slowly, leaving space. When she turns to look at him, he drops to a crouch. Her eyes are glassy but locked. She does not growl. She does not run. She's waiting, Malik says quietly. Something's here. He scans the area, noting the flattened reeds where she stands. There are scratch marks in the soil, not recent, but frantic, deep gouges dragging downward as if something had been trying to claw out or claw in. The mud has hardened into ridges. A shallow dip shows at the edge, partially collapsed. Malik squints at the shape. Not a burrow, not a den. Maybe a washout pocket. Maybe something worse. If there's something buried, it could still be alive. Or it could be a carcass. If they move too fast, they risk collapsing whatever is underneath. But if they leave it, the window for rescue narrows. Malik rises and gives a short nod to his partner. No tools yet. First, they'll wait, see what the dog does next. She turns her head once, then lowers her belly to the ground, pressing close to the edge of the reeds. Her chest expands with shallow breaths. She whines softly once. Then silence. The dog doesn't leave. Not for food, not for water. Not even for Malik's open hand. Whatever is there, it matters more to her than her own hunger. If they misread the signs, they could make it worse. But if they wait too long, and there's something alive beneath that dirt, it will not last the day. Mist clings to the river curve as the morning sun lifts higher. One dog still barking, one ranger watching, and a patch of earth holding something it will not yet give up. Malik knelt closer to the edge, the early light stretching thin over the reeds. The ground beneath him bore the signs of something recent. Small arcs cut by claws, patches of churned mud, and a half-collapsed dip in the soil just inches from the river's still edge. To most, it would look like the aftermath of rain or erosion. But to Malik, who'd spent a decade reading the quiet language of land and water, the story was different. This was an effort, repeated, focused, frantic, and not by accident. The dog moved again. She circled wide now, still staying within reach of the same patch. Her tail was stiff and horizontal, her ears low but not pressed back. She didn't growl. She didn't bark, not until Imani stepped 3 paces back toward the path. Then it came. One bark, clipped and loud. The dog ran forward and nosed the same patch of soil, stamping her front paws once before pulling back. Malik turned his head toward her, then back to Imani. She only barks when we leave. Imani frowned. guarding something. Or asking. The dog dropped to the ground again, elbows flat, muzzle pressed forward just enough to rest over the loosened edge of the riverbank. From this position she did not move. Only her rib cage lifted in short, shallow intervals. She was waiting. Malik motioned for Imani to bring the kit. No spades yet. Just gloves and light. If this was a collapsed den or a sealed burrow, the risk of suffocating whatever might be inside was high. They had to move soft and slow. The mud peeled away easily in Malik's hands, still damp beneath the cracked surface. He cleared away reeds first, then tufts of dry grass. The edge sloped unnaturally, not from water flow but from pressure, like something had been trying to escape or enter. A single fold collapsed inward as he touched it, revealing a deeper crease below. Air stirred from within, sour and cold. Imani crouched beside him, digging with bare hands now. "I feel a chamber," she whispered. "Hollow. Cool." The soil shifted again, slumping just enough to expose a slick layer of fur. Not fully visible, just a patch, pale and clumped. Malik froze. The dog let out a short, throaty moan. Malik brought his head closer. His breath caught. "It's hair," he said, "still damp, still warm." From behind them, the river rolled on with its slow, indifferent rhythm. But here, time had slowed. The dog rose to her feet. Her ears twitched. She leaned forward once, sniffed the air near the hole, then stepped back again. Not away, just to give them room. They widened the opening by hand, careful not to break the wall. The farther they dug, the more compact the mud became. Heavy, almost clay-like. It clung to their gloves, caked their wrists. Then something moved. Not a twitch, not a trick of the wind, but a tremble. A sound followed. Wet, breathless, small, a gurgle or a whimper. They froze. "Alive," Malik said softly. "There's something alive down there." Imani pulled back and quickly fetched the field torch. The beam shone faintly into the dark recess. A small, curled body sat tucked beneath the overhang, pressed against the mud wall, trembling. No eyes visible. No full shape yet, but they could see it shiver. Its fur was slick and mottled with silt. A single hoof, tiny, no larger than a hand, poked from beneath its side. "It's a goat," Malik said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Newborn." Imani exhaled slowly. She must have pulled it from somewhere. The dog sat down near them, her body sagging slightly, but her eyes never left the hole. Her tail thudded once. She gave no bark now. Only silence, deep and patient. If they pulled too fast, the newborn's breathing might stop. If they waited too long, the air pocket might collapse. Every second mattered now. Malik reached in, brushing more soil away. The tiny body flinched. He stopped, waited. Then I tried again. Slowly, inch by inch, they cleared space around the kid. A tiny bleat cracked from its mouth, soft and strained. The dog whimpered again and crawled slightly forward. They didn't know how long it had been buried, but they knew it was not long from death. And somehow, because one stray had refused to leave, it still had a chance. The sun had climbed higher now, dissolving the mist, but not the urgency. Malik pressed his palms deep into the wet soil, feeling the chill work through the gloves. Beside him, Imani swept dirt away in slow arcs, keeping the opening from caving further. The dog stayed near, silent, alert. Her breaths came fast but steady, as if matching the rhythm of the earth she had guarded so fiercely. From within the hole, a faint whimper rose, fragile, wet, almost accidental. Not a cry for help, just the sound of something whose lungs were still learning how to breathe. Imani paused, her fingers curling slightly in the mud. She leaned closer. "There it is again," she whispered. The sound returned, this time clearer, layered with shallow breath and something softer like the flutter of skin against damp roots. There was movement now, barely visible in the narrow beam of the field torch. Not a full body, not yet. Just a shift, a weak squirm, like a curled leaf trembling in water. Malik reached in, fingers grazing the shape. It recoiled. "Still responsive," he said quietly. "It's trying." They widened the mouth of the cavity by hand, brushing loose clay outward with slow precision. It was an old den, or maybe a runoff shelter built into the side of the riverbank. The collapse had sealed most of it. How the animal had gotten in was unclear, but if it hadn't been for the dog, it would have stayed buried. The body was half submerged in cold silt, coated in a film of mud and plant fiber. Its head remained tucked, ears flat. Not a dog, not a wild pup. The proportions were wrong. Imani narrowed the light and leaned farther in. "I see ears, and a tail. Short, might be a goat, a very small one." Malik nodded. "Newborn, most likely." The whimper came again, softer now. Like the energy behind it was thinning. The kid was weakening. Imani slipped one arm beneath the animal, careful not to lift yet. She felt the shape rise against her wrist, all bone and soaked fur. The body trembled violently at the first touch but didn't pull away. She shifted gently, freeing the front legs. Hooves no larger than her fingers slid from the mud, one twitching faintly. The rear half remained trapped beneath compact soil. "Still breathing," she said, "but barely." "We have minutes." Malik worked beside her, pushing clay away from the back legs. The muscles were stiff with cold, unmoving. Every handful of earth felt like lifting a stone. They moved in silence now, speaking only when necessary, focused on clearing the last barriers between life and suffocation. The dog crept forward, belly low, paws pressing into the soft ground. She stopped just short of the opening, her head cocked slightly. Her nose twitched once. A soft whine escaped her throat, high and uncertain. Malik didn't stop her. "She's not going to hurt it," he murmured. Imani nodded. "She's already kept it alive." With one final pull, the last of the rear leg came free. The kid's body slumped sideways, slick and shaking. Mud clung to its mouth and eyes. Imani used a clean cloth to wipe the nostrils, clearing the airways. The kid coughed once, a thin, choking sound, and then inhaled. Its chest moved. Shallow, then deeper. The dog exhaled through her nose and sat back. Her body relaxed for the first time. It was a girl, a baby goat, no more than 2 days old, too young to survive alone, too weak to have wandered here, and yet she had ended up buried in a collapsed den, miles from any known herd, watched over by an animal with no clear bond to her, no reason to stay. Imani cradled the kid in both arms, wrapping her in a warming wrap from the pack. The baby didn't cry now. I just trembled, just breathed. Malik stood. "We'll carry her out. She needs warmth." Fluids. Behind them, the dog followed. Not close enough to touch, just near enough to watch, her eyes fixed on the kid in Imani's arms. Whatever connection had brought them together didn't matter yet. What mattered was breath, warmth, and the few hours left to save her life. The river's curve had grown quiet again. No footsteps, no wind, just the faint shudder of something new breathing air for the first time in hours. The kid lay on a square of thick canvas Malik had laid across the reeds. Her small frame curled and trembling. Mud clung to her ears, her spine, her eyelids. Her breathing came in shallow bursts, nostrils fluttering, ribs barely lifting. The cords of her legs twitched now and then, but she did not try to stand. Imani crouched nearby, slowly wiping each limb with a soaked cloth. The water turned brown immediately, but she kept going. She worked from the hooves upward, careful not to startle or chill the animal further. Malik poured a small measure of warmed glucose solution into a clean bottle. The baby wouldn't feed yet, but it was ready. "She's too cold," Imani murmured. We need body heat. She won't hold warmth without it." Before Malik could respond, the dog moved forward. She had not barked in over an hour, not since they pulled the kid free. But now she approached on soft paws, tail low, eyes on the baby. She stopped beside the canvas, lowered her head, and sniffed along the edge of the cloth. Then, gently, she lay down. Her body curled toward the kid without touching her, just near enough to let warmth pass. Her side rose and fell, slow and even. The kid's ear twitched once, then again. Her breath deepened. "She's not just guarding anymore," Malik said. "She's sharing her heart." Imani nodded. "She's choosing to stay." The temperature had begun to shift. Sunlight pushed down through the reeds, drawing long shadows across the soil. A few flies circled but kept their distance. Insects knew when something lived and when it didn't. Today, they kept coming back. The baby goat let out a short, wheezing bleat. Imani reached over, dabbing her nose. Her eyes fluttered but did not open. Her limbs had lost some of their stiffness. She breathed again, deeper now. Malik opened the bottle and pressed the rubber tip gently to the kid's mouth. At first, she didn't respond. Then, slowly, her tongue moved. Just once. Then again. "She's taking it," he said. Each swallow came like a decision. Weak, hesitant, but real. The dog lifted her head slightly, watching the motion. When the kid stopped drinking, the dog shifted forward, closer now so that her flank nearly brushed the baby's side. The contact was brief. The kid didn't startle. Imani watched carefully. "She's grounding her. That dog's been with her longer than we have." Malik nodded once. Long enough to keep her alive. They had seen unlikely bonds in the wild before. Orphaned calves adopted by lone cows, injured monkeys carried by siblings for days. But this was different. This dog was not of the herd. She had no blood connection, no instinctual reason to protect a prey animal. Yet she had stayed, barked, guarded, led them here. And now, she stayed still while the kid regained the will to breathe. Another 20 minutes passed before the baby moved again. This time, it wasn't just a twitch. She shifted, ever so slightly, pressing her face toward the dog's belly. Not quite nuzzling, just seeking something solid in a world that had been mud and darkness. The dog allowed it. Imani glanced at Malik. "We'll need to move her soon. But not yet. If we take her now," he said, "she might crash. She needs the dog." And the dog, it seemed, needed to stay. They remained like that. The ranger, the rescuer, the stray, and the goat. A quiet circle formed not by species, but survival. No one moved quickly. No one raised their voice. They would carry her out soon. There were fluids to give, warmth to hold, medical checks to run. But not yet. For now, the sun warmed the reeds, the soil stayed quiet, and two bodies lay side by side, one who had nearly faded, and one who had refused to let her go. The fire crackled low beneath a ring of river stones, its smoke rising gently into the mid-morning air. Malik crouched beside it, feeding small branches into the heat as Imani wrapped the newborn in dry cloth warmed at the edge of the flames. The kid's limbs remained curled and loose, but the trembling had lessened. Her chest lifted in more even rhythm now, though her eyes had yet to open fully. A shallow bleat escaped her lips, small, hoarse, but undeniably alive. Beside her, the dog had not moved far. She lay pressed along the kid's side, her flank curved protectively around the tiny body. Now and then, she leaned forward to lick behind the kid's ears, cleaning away dried mud with steady, careful strokes. The motions were slow, almost methodical. Not rushed, not playful, just consistent, as if marking her presence with every touch. Imani leaned back to rest her arms. "She's doing half our work for us." "She hasn't stopped since we found her," Malik replied. The dog paused her grooming and sniffed at the fire, then turned her head toward the kid again. Her ribs still showed beneath her fur. Her tail barely lifted, but her body was no longer taut with urgency. She had done what she needed to do, and now she waited. An hour passed before the sound of an engine drifted through the trees. A soft crunch of tires against gravel followed, then the low hum of a door opening. Dr. Wanja, the district's on-call wildlife vet, stepped into the clearing with a canvas pack over her shoulder. She moved without hurry, her eyes already scanning the scene. "Show me," she said gently. Imani stepped aside, motioning toward the fire ring. Dr. Wanja knelt beside the cloth, unwrapped it halfway, and ran her gloved hands over the kid's limbs, belly, and spine. The goat shifted slightly under her touch, but didn't resist. The dog growled once, a low, uncertain note, then quieted as Malik laid a calming hand near her. "She's young," the vet murmured, "maybe a day and a half old, hypothermic, slightly underweight, mud in the lungs, but she's breathing." "You got to her just in time." She adjusted the kid's legs and examined the tiny hooves, still soft at the edges. "No broken bones. She'll need warmth and formula every 2 hours. If she survives the next 12 hours, her odds are good." Then she looked at the dog. "And this one?" Malik shook his head. "Stray, no collar, but she's the reason we're here. She barked until someone came." Dr. Wanja studied the dog quietly for a moment. "She's not protecting prey," she said. "She's protecting a life." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small dish of hydration gel. With care, she held it just beneath the kid's mouth. After a few tries, the goat began to swallow, her tongue pressing weakly against the rim. "She wouldn't have made it," the vet said quietly. "Not without the dog. If she hadn't stayed, she'd be dead by now," Imani finished. The fire burned steadily, giving off a soft halo of heat. Malik added another branch. Watching the flame stretch and settle, the air carried a calm now, not from safety, but from presence, the kind of peace that comes only when everyone who was meant to be there has arrived. The dog licked the kid's ears again and then settled her head on the dirt. Her eyes remained half-closed but alert. Her body didn't waver. She stayed where she was, not forced, not held, just there. As the vet packed her supplies, she paused one final time. "She won't leave," she said. "Not until the kid walks." No one argued. The fire cracked once, sending a spark into the reed grass. The kid shifted slightly, pressing deeper into the warmth. The dog shifted too, a quiet adjustment, her breath sinking with the tiny ribs beside her. And in that still space between bark and bleat, urgency and rest, two creatures who had found each other in the mud lay waiting for whatever came next. Together. The sun had passed its peak when the call came from the village path. A soft voice, worn by age, calling gently across the clearing. Malik turned to see a tall man in a long canvas coat, walking slowly with a cane fashioned from twisted wood. Behind him, a younger man held a small container of water and an old cloth satchel. They paused at the edge of the grass, not crossing into the fire ring, not disturbing the scene. Malik stood and walked to meet them. "I heard about a dog," the elder said, his eyes moving past Malik toward the low shape beside the canvas bedding. "One with white along her muzzle and a single black paw." "She's here," Malik said. "Been here all morning." The elder's eyes softened. "She used to belong to the Tendeli herd." Imani looked up. "The goat herders?" The old man nodded. "They grazed the western plain before the floods last season. She followed the herd like a shadow, never left their heels, slept with the newborns. Not trained, just loyal." Malik remembered the floods. Flash rains over 3 days. River, overflow. Whole sections of land washed out. He hadn't thought of livestock, only the wildlife corridors and evacuation zones. "She made it through?" he asked. The elder stepped forward now, slowly. Barely. We saw her once after the water fell, covered in mud, no goats with her. The herd scattered, some lost to the river, the rest is too far gone. He crouched just shy of the firelight, his knees stiff, and rested his hands on his cane. She's been wandering ever since, doesn't stay long anywhere. But she always circles goat pens. Watch from the fence. Sometimes they lie near newborns and then disappear again. Imani glanced at the baby goat, now wrapped in a fresh cloth and breathing softly. Her body had warmed. Her head shifted now and then, as if sensing the world more clearly. The dog remained beside her, curled along her back, not touching but close enough that the two moved with a quiet synchrony. She knew what she found, Malik said. The elder nodded. She never stopped being part of the herd, even when there wasn't one. Imani looked toward the dog again. No collar, no name. The elder shook his head. We called her Mago. It means quiet one in the old tongue. She never barked unless something was wrong. Malik gave a soft breath through his nose. She's lived up to that. Mago didn't respond to the voices. Her eyes stayed on the kid, her ears flicking only when a fly came too close. Her breathing was steady. Her limbs tucked beneath her chest. She did not act as if the people around her were strangers, but she also made no move to greet them. Her attention remained focused entirely on the life she'd saved. "Will she stay here?" the younger man asked, his voice unsure. "No one's asked her to," Malik replied, "but she hasn't left." The fire had begun to settle, burning down to thick orange coals. Smoke rose in slow threads. The kid stirred, gave a small bleat, then tucked her nose into the curve of her own leg. She was growing stronger. The elder rose with effort and looked once more at Mago. Some animals lose themselves when they lose their herd, but not her. She waited until she found another. He placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. She was never just a stray. She was searching. They said no more. As the visitors walked back toward the path, Malik turned once more to the fire ring. Imani sat quietly nearby, her hand resting just beside the cloth bundle. Mago had stretched out now, her body long and still, her head resting beside the kid's side. No command had told her to stay. No fence had kept her, but she had come when she was needed. And until the kid could stand, she would not leave. By the time the sky began to shift with late afternoon light, the kid stirred again. This time, her movements carried weight. Her front legs pressed against the canvas, trembling but steady. Her head lifted, wobbled, then fell back gently. Imani stayed beside her, offering slow sips from a small rubber-tipped bottle. Each swallow was stronger now, each breath fuller. Mago rose, too, stretching long before circling once around the fire's edge. She didn't bark or whine. Her eyes tracked every motion the goat made. When the kid shifted again, testing the weight on her forelegs, Mago paused, ears forward, tail still. She did not move closer. She simply watched. Malik knelt nearby, arms resting across his knees. "She's almost ready." "She'll walk by dusk," Imani said. The kid tried again, this time getting her back legs beneath her. Her body wobbled dangerously, but Mago stepped forward and placed her body just close enough to steady her, a barrier more than a touch. The kid leaned into her gently, then stood, fully, even if only for seconds. Imani exhaled softly. She's done it. They didn't wait much longer. With the baby strong enough to hold herself upright and the sun lowering behind the river trees, Malik wrapped her securely in a cloth sling. The fire was put out with care, and the last supplies were packed into the small ranger vehicle parked just off the path. The decision had already been made. There was a livestock cooperative near the northern fence line, a small farmstead that occasionally housed orphaned animals, especially those too young to be reintroduced into wild or semi-wild flocks. It wasn't permanent, but it was safe. Warm. watched. Malik lifted the bundle into the rear seat, fastening the straps with quiet hands. Imani opened the rear hatch for Mago. The dog did not move. Instead, she walked slowly around the vehicle, circling once, then coming to stand beside Malik. Her eyes moved from his face to the goat, then back again. "She's not confused," he said. "She's deciding." He opened the side door and stepped back. Mago looked once more at the cloth-wrapped kid, then climbed in. No resistance, no hesitation. She curled in beside the sling, her body forming the same curved shape she had held since morning. The drive was short, 15 minutes through dry roads and brush trails. The goat slept through most of it. Mago lay awake the entire time, her gaze fixed not on the windows, but on the bundle breathing beside her. As they neared the fence line, the sounds of goats and sheep grew louder, gentle bleats, soft footfalls over hay. The farmstead stood behind a simple wire barrier shaded by neem trees. A small shed sat open near the paddocks, already prepared with blankets and a feeding trough. The workers had been informed. One stood waiting near the gate. Malik carried the goat inside first. Imani followed with a folded towel and feeding kit. When they turned to guide the dog out, there was no need. Mago had already stepped down. She walked beside them through the open gate, past the larger animals and the rows of hay, ignoring all of it. She walked with her head low, her gait steady, as if this place had been waiting for her all along. Inside the pen, Malik laid the kid down gently on a soft mat of straw. She stirred and let out a thin bleat. Mago approached, circled once, and curled down beside her again. No commands, no collars, no names spoken aloud, just two animals placed beside each other by need, and now, choice. "She's not going anywhere," Imani said. "No," Malik agreed, "not unless the kid does." Outside, the goats continued their quiet chorus. The sun slipped lower, turning the dry grasses gold, and for the first time in many months, Mago no longer had to walk alone. Here is Chapter 8, The Ones Who Stay, written in your required tone and style with exactly 700 words. 5 days had passed since the kid had been pulled from the riverbank. In that time, the rhythm of the farmstead settled around her like dust on dry stone. Soft, gradual, familiar. She no longer lay still for hours. Now she moved with careful skipping steps across the straw-covered paddock, her legs still unsteady but curious. The swelling in her limbs had gone down. Her eyes, once sealed shut from dried mud, now blinked fully into the daylight. She didn't wander far. Every time she veered past the edge of the shade, she paused, looked back, and returned to the same shape always waiting nearby. A dog with her body curled beside the fence post, head low, eyes watchful. Mago did not enter the herd. She did not follow the farmhands or seek food from their hands. She slept near the gate, just close enough to see the kid. When the kid lay down, she stood. When the kid stood, she followed, never touching, never barking, just there. The herders began to notice. One morning, a man placed a scrap of flatbread near the post where Mago slept. She did not eat it. She nudged it away with her paw and returned to watching the pen. A child approached once, tried to pet her. She backed away, not with fear, just distance. As if she had already chosen her role, and it did not include soft touches from strangers. "She's not a pet," one woman said. "No," the elder replied. "She's what comes after." By the end of the week, the kid had started grazing. Small patches of green had returned in the outer pasture after the last rain, and the herd was let out in pairs. The kid walked beside an older ewe, chewing leaves from low branches, and each time the gate opened, Mago followed to the boundary, paced once, and settled again near the brush. No one claimed her. Word had spread across the surrounding communities, and even the original members of the Tendeli herd had been contacted. But no name was offered, no owner arrived, and still she stayed. In the evening, Malik returned to check the pair. The kid approached him, sniffing his hand, then trotted clumsily back toward the others. Malik sat on the edge of the fencing, his boots dusted from the walk-in. Mago sat just behind him, eyes fixed on the pasture. She could leave if she wanted, he said. Imani nodded beside him. But she doesn't. No chains, no gate, just a choice. They watched as the kid lay down near the base of a tree, her body folding gently into the grass. Mago stood, stretched, and padded over to the same spot. She sat down beside the kid, then slowly lowered herself to the ground. Their sides nearly touched. The last light fell in quiet bands across the field. Goats moved like slow shadows across the grass, their sounds faint and rhythmic. The sky above began to dim, and the day pulled itself softly toward night. Some animals are claimed. Others return to where they came from. But some, the ones who stay, do so not out of duty or instinct or training. They stay because they were needed once. And they remain in case they are needed again. As the field grew quiet and the shapes of goats became silhouettes, Mago rested her chin on the ground, her eyes half closed but always open enough to see. The kid shifted beside her, then stilled. And in that quiet closing moment, no collar, no command, no fence was required. Just a patch of earth, just a shared breath, just one who had once been alone, choosing never to let another feel the same.